Hi, everybody, and welcome to Book Club with Bay. I am Bay, and this is Bay. Say hi, Bay.
Hi, Bay.
And today we're talking about, I keep wanting to be like, we're talking about Midnight Alley. We are not. We're talking about The Dead Girls Dance
Yep.
by Rachel Kane, the second book in the Morganville Vampire series. So, yeah. Yeah, and there's no Mernon in this book, which made me so...
He's semi kind of in the book, but
yeah,
not
he's
really.
almost in the book. But also, I'm sorry, before we get to the
He's
writing,
definitely in the book. Next book. It's next book he's definitely in.
yeah. And I'm sorry for this. Spoilers ahead for the series. Anyway, this is Book Club
the
with Faye,
20-year-old series.
Yeah, not spoiler-free book review with Faye. So I forgot that Sam was a person, and I got so excited because I was like, Sam! I was like, the Mercy book. We like this Sam. As far as I know.
Sam. We love Sam.
Okay.
We never not like Sam.
Okay, good. I was like, does it get ruined?
Because you know how I told you as well that there's the anthology book, Midnight Bites, and it's all the short stories. We get to, because one of the confusing things about Sam is like he looks like he's like about around the same age as Michael and Shane, right?
Yeah.
But he's Michael's grandfather. So,
yeah.
And he's in love with Emily, and it's like, how did this happen? How we find out how it happened in the short story.
Oh, that's fun. Cause I don't know if I ever did this as a child, but I ship them. I'm sorry.
But Sam and Emily.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it's with the coin. I don't know if you remember, but it's a thing in the book after the bad happens, and it's a sad.
I don't know what's happened. What book is it?
The book that they beat Bishop in, it's the next one.
Okay.
Because the book that they beat Bishop in is the sad.
Because I remember a lot of snippets of stuff. Like, I remember Shane being really angry at Michael, but when it didn't happen, when he found out Michael was a ghost, I was like...
No, it's coming next book. We got a taste of it this one, but it's coming this next book.
Yeah.
And then it just gradually tapers off until Fight Club. And then it comes back with a vengeance.
Yeah. I was like, oh no, the sad times are coming.
Yeah. And actually, good segue into this point. That's actually also one of the benefits of us having so many useful fluff scenes of just the group, because then when the group dynamics change, where best friends, Shane and Michael, Shane's pissed off at Michael, and Michael's starting to get the shits with Shane for having the shits with him, it actually, like, we care.
Yeah.
And we notice.
Yeah, exactly. It's not just like, oh, why? I mean, if it had happened in the first book, it would have been too soon. Again. Yeah, if it had happened in the first book, it would have been too soon. Oh, ratings. Let's
right.
Okay, so
did we go out of 10 or 5? I can't remember which one we did.
Where did I write it down?
I don't know.
Why am I like this?
I trust you, and you do it every time, babe.
I thought I put it in my notes.
Is it in our Dropbox?
I know where I put it. Yeah, I think that's where I put it. Why did I do that?
I guess I would also have access in case you forgot where it is, but you forgot to tell me.
Oh God. Okay. I think.
Is it in there?
That is what we did. Okay. So.
Also, are the Mercy first ratings in there?
No.
We should probably put them in there after.
Yeah.
Maybe later. Yeah.
I don't know if I know where they are.
I can.
Send help.
We probably got at least another year and a half before another Mercy book comes out.
Yeah.
So you have a year and a half to find it.
I don't know. Okay. That's very weird.
We'll worry about the messy ones later. It's fine. We have our Morganville page.
Yeah, I don't. I'm sure it's here, hopefully. Okay, so yeah, we did it out of 10.
What did we rate the first one?
9.
Do we want to bump the first one down? I feel like I like this one more.
Yeah, Well, I honestly find the first one a little bit more entertaining because I don't really like reading about Shane's dad.
Yeah, there is
Like,
Frank.
I have never enjoyed reading about Shane's dad, and
I know I'm gonna get so much more of him.
I know. He's always my least favorite part, though. It's always my least favorite part.
Yeah. We have it. Like one thing. Oh, I forgot. I don't know if it's important yet, but one thing that we didn't discuss last book. Actually, no. We'll do the ratings and then remind me to do the historical reference. Okay.
Okay.
Pin in that. I don't know. Like this book actually, like last book was just like, hey, there's a world of vampires, and that's the plot. This town's full of vampires, and it's just setting it up. Whereas this one actually is like, oh, okay, well, let's do some plot stuff now.
Yeah, that is true. But the setup is fun. So
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Oh, you know what though? This one starts to introduce Vernon. We get a lot more of Emily, and we get Sam.
Yes, and we also get a massive, and we also get an epic character development on Michael's part this book.
Yes. Okay, yeah. So let's bump, I think maybe make Glass House 8. 8? What do we think about 8?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we'll do 8, and maybe this one at 8.5 because I know that there are better books in this. So, because we're going to be rating this on a sliding scale, so you can't hold this to our thing. But we'll do this one, I think, at an 8.5 because there's better books in the series than this one.
Yeah.
And I know that they're coming.
So our ranking right now is a little boring.
Because there's 2 whole books.
It's Dead Girls Dance and Glass Houses. That's what it is.
Also, because we discovered last book as well, I think the Morganville, this should be done after readings. Claire Hair Watch. Because we have some changes to her hair this book. So,
what was the historical thing, real quick, that we didn't discuss last time?
We'll get back to that. I'll remember after this. So
I just want to make sure you actually remember.
We got a surprise revelation that neither of us had ever noticed before, that apparently in the first book, Claire has a black pixie cut. But as we've said multiple times last stream, Rachel Kane sucks at continuity, and by this book she's either changed her mind or just forgotten.
Yeah.
Claire's hair is long enough to put into little piggy tails, so that's not a pixie cut because pixie cuts are short at the back. You can't piggy tail a pixie cut.
Right. Also, Eve has to spray
black into her
hair. Yeah, black, and which is not what you have to do.
So Claire's hair is at least this long. She's at least got a bob. Max probably shoulder length if she has little pigtails, but I wouldn't classify shoulder length pigtail, like, shoulder length hair and pigtails as little. So I'm thinking, because time hasn't passed yet. This book picks up
not super
little pigtail. Yeah, like this book picks up immediately where the last book picks off. So there's no time. So she's changed it. So Claire's got so she's got her signature brown hair now. and it's probably about a bob.
Yeah, like, and that's always how I imagined it. I always imagined Claire's hair about my length and like the mousiest brown color you could.
Yeah, just a nice, boring, mousy brown.
Yeah, well, because that's the hair that fits her. A pixie cut, I'm like, that's way too like spunky. It's got too much personality to it. Not that Claire is like a wooden plank of a character,
but her
she's a mousy brown type of character.
Yeah, like her character has a lot of spunk, but it's usually dire circumstances that bring out the spunk.
Yeah, like Claire is not an inherently spunky person.
No. Like she got a little bit like Eve later in the series. Eve has to like talk her into putting some reddish highlights through her hair. She's that kind of person. So
not the kind of person who would get a pixie cut unless like
a
part of her hair
pixie cut.
Yeah, unless part of her hair got like singed off in a fire. Speaking of fire, welcome to this book. This book is about fire. By the way.
Now the historical reference thing. I haven't been able to find out who Amelie is supposed to be. I've looked into it. Because there's like all of these obscure references about Amelie, like, you know, she held a kingdom once or tried to hold a kingdom once. She was a French princess or something like that, you know.
Yeah.
I haven't been able to figure out who the frick she's meant to be, but Oliver is Oliver Cromwell.
How do you know?
Because there's all these references, like he's English.
Yeah.
Named Oliver, turned at around the right time, and he temporarily overthrew a monarch.
Oh my God, he's Oliver Cromwell.
He's literally Oliver Cromwell. Ada.
Okay.
Is Ada.
What?
We haven't met Ada yet, but Ada is Ada Lovelace.
Okay. So Amelie is supposed to be what? Like, tell me. And I'm a historian. Okay, I'm a baby historian.
As my boyfriend likes to remind me. I don't know if she actually was a French princess.
Okay.
Or if she married a prince at some stage. But she's French. And her bishop is her biological as well as her vampiric father. So an Amelie with a father name, like with some sort of link to the word bishop. So maybe I tried for a couple days last time I read this series to try and work out who the fuck Amelie's supposed to be. Because there's just too many.
She can't be this person but there is
I know that I suspect I've looked into the person that you're probably looking into, and I don't think it's her. But that's probably better off as an off-stream thing, because it would take too long to try and find the correct one. Because, like I said, I was looking for a couple of days.
Yeah, like also her name might not be like that might not be her real name.
Yeah, and there's like she might not be based on anyone, but there's too many, because like it's never straight up said that Oliver is Oliver Cromwell. There's just enough puzzle pieces for you to put together that is Oliver Cromwell.
Yeah.
The same with Ada, except at one stage Mernon straight up mentioned Lord Byron, who was Ada Lovelace's father.
Mm-hmm.
So Ada, and it makes sense that Ada was Ada Lovelace. She was the first computer programmer. Like, God knows how many, like what, at least a century before computers were a thing.
Yeah.
So, it makes sense that Ada is Ada Lovelace. But yeah, with Amelie, there's so many just vague references to her past that it feels like she's supposed to be based on someone as well.
Right. It's so funny that he's Oliver Cromwell. That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay.
So next time you read that Oliver is, well, you probably also haven't reread this series since you were, way
I
younger.
haven't.
Hey.
I haven't.
Yeah,
And last time I reread it, I was actually reading it, and we all know that I pick up nothing. Like, I'm like, I know what the characters' names are after I read a physical book. My brain just doesn't absorb information that way. Like, honestly, if anybody's ever like, read this article, let me know what you think. I'm like, just fucking tell me what it says, because I can't. I'm gonna sit here for an hour trying to read this thing.
Yeah, so we haven't gotten any of the hints about Oliver's past yet. We just know his name's Oliver. That's it at this point. But yeah, throughout the series, we're going to get little puzzle pieces that is Oliver Cromwell.
Yeah. Okay. I'll keep an eye out for that, because there is like a little mention of him being like old.
Yep, and it fits his personality as well. Like, he comes to Morganville and wants to overthrow Emily. He tries to overthrow everyone.
Yeah.
But that's just one thing that I found really cool about the series as well. Like, because she did it in a way as well, though, that like if you don't pick up on it and you're just like, oh wow, this Oliver seems to like to try and overthrow monarchs, and that's fine. Well, it's not an in-your-face reference, but it's just like it's more like an Easter egg.
Right. Yeah.
It's done well.
Yeah. Whereas like Mercy, I'm like, I want to figure, like, because I haven't ever looked it up who Z is.
Oh, I haven't actually looked that up. I looked when I reread it, because you know how I reread Mercyverse like really, really recently. Like I finished it in September. When I was doing Rivermark, I actually like looked into like the River Devils / Coyote and this and that, and yeah. Like that's got a basis.
The Darksmith of Drawntime is actually a person. Oh, well, it's a tale anyway.
Yeah.
It's a Norwegian folktale.
Sounds about right.
Well, he speaks Old German, but that doesn't really mean anything. I think it's based on someone. I'm not reading it fully, but like I'll put it inside chat so we can look it up later.
Okay.
Anyway, so
so
we will briefly go over characters, just super briefly. So last once we met, we had Claire, our mousy person, Eve, our resident goth, Michael, our resident ghost, Shane, our resident hot boy, and and there was
Shane.
I know I do too. And then there was Oliver Cromwell, apparently.
Yes.
Coffee shop owner and Eve's boss at the time of last book, not at the time of this book. We learned he's a fucking bastard last book.
Yeah.
Then there's
Vampy Vamp.
Yeah, he's a vampy vamp. And then there's he did. And then there's Emily, who is the founder of Morganville and a pretty cool cat.
Yep, she's the Ice Queen of Morganville.
And then this book,
Monica.
we meet Sam, who is Michael's grandfather and the best. Unlike the other Sam, where I literally said, no one cares about your dead baby Sam. And then someone had me turn it into a t-shirt.
Maggie's here. Hi, Maggie.
Yay, he's alive. So yeah. Uncovering the uncovering the inspiration for the characters. I meant to ask you about this earlier, but I'm just gonna do what I do best and talk shop on stream like an asshole. My boyfriend, we were in the car the other day, and he was like, "So, would you know how you do book club?" And I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Would you guys want to do the Witcher books?" And I was like, look, on our list is fucking long, okay? And he was like, well, I was like, do you want to do them with us? We'll do them faster if you do them with us. And he was like, what? No, I couldn't. I was like, nope, that's what we're doing. So when we take breaks for this series, we can do that along with actually finishing the next series.
You know what? That's actually really cute. We kind of have to do them. He put himself out there and made a suggestion, which I think is more than what any of the other boyfriends have done.
No, I'm like, nope, I'm into this.
Stixie
Let's do
hasn't,
it.
and I don't think either of the other boys have ever made a suggestion for book club.
Well, he doesn't do a lot of fiction, and those books, he hasn't even read my books, and so those books are.
Yeah, Stixie doesn't like fiction. I'm like, one day I will get you to listen to Mercy, and he's like, I don't think so. I'm like, but it's not like YA. It's grown up. And you might
it's not like other girls. You know what though? Complete side note. Something that I really hate is that, like, if you're looking for books like Mercy,
you can't find them.
Well, you know what? I would say this. My books are like that in that they are plot and not random sex in the middle. Like, at least Livescraft, the Rosalie Watson series. Blackwoods has a good chunk of romance. But there's enough other shit going on that it's not overpowering, but it's still in there. So if you're looking for like devoid of porn, Blackwood's not the thing. But every book that they're like, this is like kind of like the Mercy books, I'm like, it's not. It is not.
Yeah, no.
Oh, there is a series.
Say,
sorry.
No, like, just for the most part, I found like Mercyverse books to be freaking unique in terms of what their content is. Like I love urban fantasy stuff, but yeah, it's the only adult one. Like, if you've either got YA or porn in urban fantasy, and then there's Mercy all alone on this little mountain.
I'm with the mountain though. If you want something that has the same like love interest stuff ratio,
doesn't have werewolves.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. But if you're looking for urban fantasy that has the same like mushy shit ratio, then my books are actually I'm not saying I am as good as Patricia Briggs. I hope one day, but I am saying that if
we
that's
all
the kind
hope
of
one
thing
day to be Patricia Briggs.
I know, right? And then for Blackwoods,
but
the romance isn't so overpowering that there's a ton of plot in Blackwoods. There's so much plot in Blackwoods.
And Maggie's throwing Eddie under the bus for Blackwoods.
You know what though?
Probably rightly so. But
something that's actually been really great about writing Blackwoods together. Speaking of Blackwoods, the new Blackwoods is about to come out. But something that's been really great about writing Blackwoods together is that I've gotten much better at romance and she's gotten much better at action. Yeah. And so it used to be that like I had to write all the action stuff and she had to write all the romance stuff. But now it's a lot more collaborative because we've kind of learned from each other, which was fun. Like, it's fun that we've gotten better.
Yeah, helping each other grow.
Yeah. Anyway, where the fuck were we?
Characters. So yeah, we get to meet Sam this book. He's Michael's grandfather / the youngest vampy vamp.
For now.
We had a House of Night moment at the same time.
Dun dun dun.
And I don't know how.
For now.
And I don't know how I feel about that.
I'm so tempted at the end of Elder to put like the end for now. Just kidding. I'm kidding. Don't get your hopes up. But I'm
at least, I mean, you know what? At least with House of Night Otherworld, they didn't bullshit us. It was for now.
Yeah.
Like,
it's definitely not the end. We know it's not the end.
You know what, though? At least I can at least respect the honesty. I don't respect the most likely outcome.
Yeah.
But I respect the honesty. Because
they're like, as long as this is the best-selling thing we have, more books. And it's like, all right. But yeah, Sam is great. Unlike Samuel,
he's a sweetie, and he's a lonely boy.
He is. And unlike Samuel from the Mercy series, we do like him. Not that I hate Samuel, but he's annoying.
He's much better when he's in Africa for the rest of the series.
That's actually one thing that I don't like is that we actually don't get like a Mercy Samuel dynamic past then. Like,
Yeah, like I mean, like once it's like the book, it's the rape doodle book that she picks
yeah,
Adam and stuff. They start to have like more of a sibling banter, and I'm like, okay, it's probably a bit soon to jump straight into the sibling shit because like you two are lovers. That's it though, I guess, because they're both canid. You know, affection works differently when you're half doggo.
yeah.
But I just felt like it was a bit too soon for them to be like hair ruffling each other.
Well, yeah, because like she goes from I don't know who I love to like fuck it, and then Sam just goes from like super jealous to like whatever, and it's like, oh, okay. All right.
He's like, whatever, I'm gonna try and commit suicide next book, we're good.
Which also feels very extreme, but then they're like, it's because of his dead baby, and I'm like, is it that, or is it because he didn't get puss? Like, which one?
And also, he's more dominant than Charles.
Yeah.
Because when we're talking about like he never ever, like, seriously, at most he's a year or two younger in wolf time.
Yeah.
Than Bran.
But it's kind of implied that they both had at the same time.
Yeah, it kind of sounds like she just turned them both into wolfy wolves, but at most there was a little bit of a break, right?
Yeah.
Like probably a year or two. At most. And it's always Bran's the oldest werewolf in the world. Sam's old. He's old.
And it's like they're the same age.
Like, and also like over the span of what potential, because there's questions of whether or not Sam met King Arthur and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Which would imply that he's at least 1,500 years old. In the terms of 1,500 years, at least, a year or two at most, a decade or two at most. Does that really make a difference?
It doesn't. And the other thing that's kind of weird is that it's implied that Bran is about 1,000.
At least 1,000.
Yeah, at least because he's Beowulf.
Yeah,
we know that he's Beowulf.
Yeah,
and let me make sure I'm not like I'm a historian.
Well, well, not Beowulf, because I think Beowulf was the author, but the creature in the Beowulf thingy. I tried to read Beowulf.
Right. I was right. It's about 1,000 years old. I'm good. I don't have to turn in my history card.
But from memory as well, when I was looking into that story was like at least a couple generations old by the time it got written. Well,
it first got printed. I don't know about transcribed, but printed in the 1800s. But that doesn't mean it wasn't transcribed long before that. It was, but yeah, it got printed around the time things were getting printed. But yeah, so it's, and then like King Arthur, and there's a lot of, I had to write a paper on is King Arthur real? And the answer is,
it's a shrug.
And the answer is, I don't know, is he?
But the general time that if he was a thing, the general time was 500s or 600s, so 6th or 7th century.
Let me look that up.
I believe.
I know I wrote a paper on it, but I don't really remember. Yes, 5th and 6th century somewhere.
Oh, 5th and 6th century. Okay.
Yeah.
So if Bran's possibly, because he never says he's because Bran thrives on the mystery of who is he and how old is he. So it's, have you ever met King Arthur? And he's like, have I?
Yeah. So, at this point, I don't want to know how old he is. I'm like, it's more fun wondering.
Honestly, I think Bran without the mystery would be a lot more boring.
Yeah, exactly.
Because every time they cover a little bit about Bran, I'm like, I kind of wish I didn't know that. Like, I'm glad I know because I like to know things, but also I kind of wish I didn't. It was more fun.
I feel like as many books as it's been, it makes sense that like a little bit more comes out, but like it's still vague enough that we're still like, who is he though?
I love
one thing,
finding out more about Charles.
Which is one thing,
like Charles tidbit, I'm like, gimme.
Yeah, exactly. Like one thing is like with Maya in my books, I was like, I can't, like, I know exactly her entire life story, but I don't want to talk about it because once you know, it's no fun. Although my dad was like, tell me what the fuck. And I was like, all right, fine. So I'm sure you remember me coming up with it.
Oh yeah, I remember. I remember the previous iteration of her.
Oh yeah. Yeah, the very first thing I came up with. Which is not true anymore. But
no, it's not true anymore.
But like the second thing I came up with is still basic, is still canon. And I don't really drop I don't really drop enough hints for you to figure it out, which I think is fine. But like there is a little bit, you get a little bit more in Elder because it's the last book, and I was like, I'll throw some stuff in, but it's not much.
Like, and the most important thing is that so like this story, so that when you drop your tidbits, they're consistent. They're not contradicting each other. Because that's one thing as well. Like there's so I'm pretty sure Vampire Diaries does this a lot. Because like, let's be honest, they drop a new bit of lore, and then they have to like do a shit ton of scrabbling to try and make it fit with the pre-established.
Right. I will say though, they do a pretty good job of.
That sometimes they're hardcore scrambling though to make it fit though. Sometimes
they're like, but we swear, and I'm like, you know what? I'll let it slide because like at least you didn't forget about the last thing you told us, which is a plus.
Yeah, but like
Maggie's like, I will resort to bribery to find out. You know what, Maggie? If at the end of Elder you really want to know, I will tell.
You're special.
Be warned, it's a lot. So
it is.
Anyway.
Okay. Characters. Okay, so we've also got Monica.
Yeah.
She is the mayor's daughter, and Richard is in this book more. Like last book, it was just the creepy like how kid's my brother, guys. And that was Richard's involvement in the last book.
I will say this: we get a bit more humanization of Monica.
Yes.
In this book, which is nice, because Monica does read like a cartoon character until she gets humanized, and I don't know if that's like Rachel being like, I made a cartoon character, or if whatever, but she does get humanized. He
offers that bribe literally the day I order my new ones.
Honestly though, if you get me AirPods, I will fucking tell you.
I ordered ones today, damn it.
Actually, I'm kidding. You don't look. You've beta read everything, and you've gotten me so many hard copies. Like I'll just tell you, you don't have to bribe me.
This information we give, she gives for free.
Yeah. You have to wait till after Yorda or after Elder, but I'd have to finish it first. I mean, Addie and I wrote the next Blackwoods book last week, and we wrote the first draft in under a week.
Which is pretty freaking impressive.
Which, like, by the end of it, it devolved. Like, the first chapters were like, 5,000
what you should have done?
6,000 words. The last last chapters are like 200 words.
It's the best draft. Okay, you just
well, you know what though? Fine. We got about halfway through and we were like, can we yeah, we can. Fuck it. Finish going over characters. I will be right back.
Okay. Crap, who else is in this book? We get to meet the mayor this book, which is Monica's dad. Monica and Richard's dad. So he's in it for a bit. with Shane's dad. He came to town at the end of the last book. And the last book ended with him and his biker buddies killing Michael because they think he's a vampy vamp, which he's not. He's just a house ghost who is only corporeal at nighttime. But yeah, Frank's back, and he not happy with the current status of things. And then I guess because she's not back, we get to meet a guy named Ian. I'm going into Ian, okay, because all there was left was like we meet the mayor, and there's also Frank, and then there's also Ian who invites Claire to the Dead Girls dance.
Right. So this is the Blades of Redwater. How thick it is? It's about 100,000 words. The next book is about this long. So it's not as long as The Outcast of Asmar by any means, which is why we could do that. If it was another Outcast of Asmar sized book, then we couldn't have. But this is it. I have the hardcover. And that's it's thick. She's a thick boy. Like next to each other. We want to put BTB.
Is that like an extra third long? It looks about an extra third.
This is 180 something thousand words.
Okay, so it's almost double.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's just because I had to do the cover and the interior formatting for this. Unlike last time. But it looks pretty. I also redid the interior formatting for the original BTB to make it match these books.
Yeah.
But we do want to put BTB in hardback. Because at first it was just supposed to be a novella that was like 0.5. And then we realized trying to write BTBOR that there was no way to do that because we couldn't include all the information that was in BTB into the next book. So because we tested it, we had people read The Blades of Redwater without reading BTB, and then we had people who had read it, and nobody who hadn't read it yet did not do well. So we were like, okay, I guess this is no longer a novella. It's just part of the series. So the series goes from a 30,000 word book to 180, back down to 100, and then back up to Outcast of Asmar size, and then back down. So these book lengths they make no sense, but that's okay.
It's fine.
We were like,
honestly,
what?
the story is as long as it needs to be.
That's
the chapter lengths are as long as they need to be.
In the next book, there's
more than 200 words. More than 200 words, but okay,
no, but in the next book,
you've got to redo those chapters. Okay?
Yeah, no, for sure. We have to go back over everything, but there is a chapter in the next book that is 20,000 words, or it will be when it's done. And the shortest chapter is like 1,000. But there's no way to break up that chapter.
I was going to say, are you sure there's no way to break up the chapter?
There's trust me, there's not.
That's
from what
really
long.
You know what's going to happen, because you know how a lot of people, they're like, oh, I'll just finish this chapter and then I'll go to bed.
Yeah.
What are they going to do if they're on that chapter day?
They're going to read the rest of the fucking chapter. They're going to read the novella of a chapter.
It's 20,000 words, babe.
I get that, but you have to keep in mind there's no way to break it up. I can explain it to you why, but there's not a good break for that chapter. Like if there was, we would do it, because we talked about it. We were like, can we really? And then we were like, there's no downtime in the chapter. There's no place to cut it. So it's just like that.
That's a really long chapter.
I know, but we have a chapter it's chapter 34 in The Outcast of Asmar that's 10,000 words long, because we were like, we're not going to cut it. It's because it just read better as like a random short story in the middle of the novella that is part 2, in the middle of the giant book that is The Outcast of Asmar. there is a short story within a novella within a novel in The Outcast of Asmore. It's a thing. It's as long as it needs to be.
Look, I know I said that. That's a lot.
I can explain why. I can explain.
Okay. Look, I honestly, if you say there's no way to break the chapter up, I believe you.
Yeah, I'll type it in chat real quick. Side that.
I'm just like so long. I mean, I don't think I would end up just like if I was to get to like that chapter and be like, nah, fuck that. That is too long a chapter. I quit this book. That's not gonna happen.
Well, because a lot of times you don't notice when you're actually reading that you've changed chapters anyway, unless you're looking for the chapter marker.
Well, also generally, like when because I mostly listen to audiobooks, you know, for the most part as well. Like when I'm listening, I don't like. Sometimes I'll hear a chapter because like chapter 15. I'm like, I thought I was still on chapter 2.
Yeah, that's how I feel sometimes. I'm like, chapter what? I put it in the thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense, and it also makes sense why there's so many words then.
Yeah.
Like no, that actually makes sense. Okay, it's long, but I guess it can stay. But oh, I didn't show you. Sorry, quick detour. We detour for you, so I'm gonna detour. I got new hand lettering colors.
What are those? Are they markers?
Double-ended textures. Yeah, the double-ended text.
Oh, so, cool.
Like, we got our fat end, and we got our fine end.
Oh, another thing, I'm putting the link in chat, but I'm sorry, I'm promoting my book, but that's fine. I'm just gonna do a thing real quick.
I misread that last message you put in the side chat. I switched the last 2 words around.
I'll look at it in a second. So on the website, we say we would do this in the preface. That's not out yet, but Maggie knows. He read the book already. But we put the timeline on everything, or on the website, and also the months, because we deal with the northern and southern, and the northern and southern hemisphere, which can get confusing because there's a whole world map that's not out yet, but there's an entire world map. So there are time zones. We had to do time zone stuff, and that was a fucking headache.
Isn't that fun?
It was.
Don't you find it interesting that in all high fantasy books, right? Well, maybe not all, but okay, fine. 99% of high fantasy books that are set in a world that is not this one. The days are 24 hours long. The years are 365 days long.
That's what we did. Because we were like...
I mean, not like I know why it makes sense. It's what people relate to. I mean, because you're not going to have like a 50-year-old that's the equivalent of a 5-year-old. It's weird.
Well, yeah, it's also like, we talked about it. We were like, do we want to be basic bitches? And we were like,
be basic. Yes. When it comes to this, unless you're writing your book on Mars, because that's already got its own established thing. If you're creating a whole new world, stick to the standard. It's fine.
Yeah, we were just like, do we want the headache of having to like figure it? Like, and we were like, nah, we don't want to do that. We don't want to do math. We've already had to do so much math for this, and we're like, no more math.
Yeah, and it's like what Maggie just said as well. It's like how all aliens in sci-fi speak American English.
Yeah. Well, that was another thing we talked about. We were like, do we want to deal with languages, different languages? And we were like, you know what? Fuck it. Everybody speaks the same like common language, and they just have accents because I'm lazy. And like, we'll just tell you that we're just like, we were like, we didn't want to fucking deal with it. But when we were initially just doing the world, because the Blackwoods that we came up with when we were like 13 was set in this world. So it was like hidden fantasy, but we were like, that doesn't make sense. for it to be hidden fantasy. So we're like, we'll make a thing. And then I was like, I don't really want to do a medieval fantasy setting. And she was like, well, I want to do a fantasy setting. So we did both. We did like, if you take Tolkien and you're just like, but fast forward 1,000 years where it actually progresses, because that's the other thing about fantasy worlds is they never get technology and it's annoying. So it's still high fantasy.
They're all stuck in the Middle Ages perpetually.
Right. It's still high fantasy, but like in the first book you have monorails and shit, and then we get phones and all that fun stuff. We did have like a tech tree that looks like a Civ tech tree where it's like they don't have phones and radios yet, but they have monorails. Don't worry about it. We're dorks. We have fun here. Anyway, where the fuck were we? Plot.
We haven't started the plot yet. Okay, so the plot. They just killed Michael. Michael's dead. Eve's crying. Claire is crying. Shane ain't happy. And then Frank's like, let's go do a decapitation and a bury in the yard shit. So then the girls go upstairs to... Shane locks them in Eve's room. And he's like... Oh, what does he say again? Oh, he's like, staying here, don't open the door for anyone but me. You know, these biker guys, they're bad news. And then they're like, we want a Coke. And he's like, okay. So then he goes to go get him a Coke. But then there's a knock at the door. And Claire's like, instead of saying, who is it, Shane? Oh, like, is it you, Shane? She's like, opens the door and it's a biker guy. And he comes in and locks the door and he's going to rape a doodle. Because, you know, okay, last book it was Claire's getting kidnapped every 10 minutes. This book is she's almost getting raped every 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's a lot of almost rapes in this book.
Okay, when we say, like, okay, did we
Twice.
count instances one or two? Because, like, there's two of them, but it's one instance, so there's two. And there's one kidnapping of Claire?
Yes.
Throughout the series, that is a very common theme, though. Claire gets kidnapped a lot this series as a whole.
Yeah.
So be prepared for that.
Yeah, but Michael's dead, and Shane's dad is like, we have to kill all the vampy vamps. And Shane's like, Dad, could you calm down? And he's like, why'd you call me if it's not time to kill the vampy vamps?
Yeah, and Shane was like, you didn't have to do that, Dad. Oh, yeah, because this happened before they went up in the room. He's like, you didn't have to do that, Dad. He wasn't a vamp. Because I'm trying to do the audiobook voice.
Yeah, he's like, you didn't have to, he's not a vampire. And he's like, he's one of them. He's the undead. And I'm like, well, that's kind of true, but not the point. Not very cash-money of you.
He like, but like, what if Shane was like legit? Because like, also, I don't know why they thought Michael was a vampire. Because he doesn't look like one. He has a pulse. Because like, vamps are all pale. Michael wasn't pale or anything. Like,
that is kind of a plot hole, because unless they were like, by the way, Dad, meet Michael the ghost.
Yeah, which they didn't do. Like, and I don't think Frank stopped on the way to be like, so these kids that my son's living with, any updates? Oh yeah, Michael, he never leaves the house anymore, and anyone can only ever talk to him at nighttime. And also, like, what if he's a musician? Like, a lot of musicians are night owls. So, like, they just walked in. What if Michael's, like, legit alive and just slept all day? And they just walked in and stabbed him in the chest and then decapitated him.
Yeah, there's not really any kind of indication.
Another thing with this series, it's full of... I don't know if it, like, I guess it's technically a plot hole, but I guess it's more like a chain of chain informational custody holes. There's gaps all in the informational chain throughout this series.
Like, it's not enough.
Like, there's a lot wrong with the series, but I don't care.
Because this, and like I've said before, this is how you know it's a good book, because in a shitty book, we would be like, so here are all the tiny little things. This one time this thing was read and I didn't like it. Like, that's how you feel about books you don't like. But in books you like, you're like, there is this gaping plot hole. Like, it ruins the series, but I still love it. So yeah, like logically, if you're actually looking at it, the events of this book shouldn't have happened, because Michael shouldn't be dead. However, it's good enough that you're like, but fuck it.
Meh, I don't care how they thought Michael was a vampire. They decapitated him.
Yeah.
So then, yeah, by the time, oh, that's another thing as well. Before they go upstairs as well, like Shane's like, Dad, we don't have to do this. And then Frank's like, look at the pictures. And he throws pictures down on the table of his sister's burnt corpse.
Right.
His 12-year-old sister's burnt corpse, which is fucked up.
Which, again, not very cash money of you. Like, what the fuck, dude?
Yeah, so now the girls are upstairs. And by the time this guy tries to do a rape-a-doodle in the room, like the girl, like Eve's got a hockey stick, and she's like, ah! And he's like, what you gonna do, little girl? Hit me with the hockey stick? And she's like, no, I'm gonna let my boyfriend hit you. And then Michael is there, and he knocks it out because
Michael is attached to the house.
A ghost. Yes.
Michael's attached to the house. The house protects him. That's why he didn't die. The house just was like, I love you. Be my friend. I kind of imagine it like Underhill from Mercy. Like, no, you can't die.
I guess it's not really established as a character yet, but it ends up like becoming a really established character. The house itself is a character as well. The glass house is a character in the series.
Yeah. So
it's not so much yet.
Yeah. So it saves him and it just puts him back together. And he was like, but dying wasn't fun. And it's like, oh God, you poor thing.
Yeah, like Claire's like, do you remember everything they did? And he's like, fuck yes, I do.
Yeah, he's like, yeah.
Kind of don't want to think about it, Claire. Like, you know, I die every morning anyway.
Remember, like, it's been from, because they could kill Michael. So this bikers are just hanging out in the house until sunset.
All day. Yeah.
All day. So it doesn't really feel like it. It feels like it takes Michael 5 minutes to come back, but it is sunset.
Yeah. So it's been a whole day.
Yeah. Which is a lot of time for bikers to just stand around talking inside your house.
Yeah. Well, also Frank's been beating up Shane as well, because then they're like, and Michael's like, you can't tell them that, you know, I did a resurrect thing because I kind of don't want to die again. And, you know, and they're like, okay. And then he's like, don't tell. Shane's coming back up, because also, like, Michael's been a ghost all day. Like, once the sun came up, he went back to being a ghost and was chilling out in the house again. So he's witnessed everything that's been happening downstairs, and he's like, I don't want you to tell Shane. And they're like, why? And he's like, because I saw what his dad was doing, and I kind of don't want to make him have to lie to his dad right now. Because, so Michael hides in the closet when Shane comes in, and he's like, I'm so sorry. And they're like, it's fine, just go away, Shane. And so Shane goes away. And then they go up to the secret room upstairs. Another gaping plot hole in this book coming up, or plot inconsistency rather.
Yeah.
Michael pulls out his phone and calls the police, and he's like, hello police, this is Michael Glass. People broke into our house. Please come. And hangs up the phone, and then the police rock up and the bikers all yeet. And Frank's like, come with me, Shane. And he's like, I can't, Dad. Come with me. No. You're not my son. And it's really dramatic. It's always really dramatic. And especially with the voices. Like, especially with, like, Cynthia Holloway, again, is the best narrator I can think of for this series, especially, like, come next book, when she does her Merlin, you'll see what I mean. Amazing Merlin. But sometimes, especially, like, if it's an emotionally intense scene with the boys speaking,
it's very dramatic. And I will say this, like, one of the things that this book has that reminds you it's supposed to be YA is that, one, you got Monica, the cartoon character. Two, there are just some times where things are very dramatic and you're like, all right, everybody, take a Xanny. Like, come on. TJ does not encourage popping drugs, but just
unless you have a prescription.
Unless you have a prescription, but use Xannies responsibly, whatever.
Yes.
But really, you really just want to be okay, guys, calm down.
Yeah. So then the girls and Shane are downstairs and the police come in and they're like, oh, so tell us all about the things. And they're like, I don't know, some bikers broke in and I don't know. And then the thing happened and then you came and they left and I don't know. They're just playing dumb.
Yeah.
And then I can't remember how, but then Shane brings up Michael's names at some point. He's like, oh, fuck. Michael's dead in the yard. And they're like, where is Michael? And then Michael comes walking down the stairs, freshly showered, buttoning his shirt, and is like, hey, guys, what's going on? Why are the cops here?
And then Shane has to not react to this. Poor thing.
Yeah, luckily, Michael's, walking as slowly as he can, so, Shane can compose himself while none of the cops are looking at him.
Yeah.
And then Shane's like, don't tell me you slept through all that, dude. And he's like, yeah, dude, you know me. I can sleep through a nuclear war. And I'm like, Michael, you called the cops. Why are you acting like you didn't know what happened? You called the cops and said, hi, this is Michael Glass. Right. He didn't pretend to be Shane.
Well, and that's it. You know what, though? Yeah. Oh, my God, you're right. Because, it makes sense that they get there and they're like, can we talk to Michael, the guy that called us? But then Michael's like, what happened? I didn't know about things. I mean, they roll with that inconsistency, so we'll pretend like Shane called the cops. Or Claire or Eve called the cops. Because that makes more sense. But you're right.
Yeah, I'm it gets me every time. It does get me. I'm just like, you called the cops, Michael. You can't plead ignorance. All they need to do is play back the phone call and know that something's shady.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah, and I also just don't understand, I just don't get what the purpose of Michael pretending not to know what happened was. I don't know what the point of that was.
Well, that's another thing that, is a good point, because
it doesn't help their story.
Because despite the fact that Michael was, Michael would know because he was a ghost, and also they have no reason to believe that Michael was dead or that Michael would have slept through the fact that
someone smashed up the freaking house. Is the house
still burnt down?
No, Claire's room got burnt, but it was most of the damage was confined to her mattress.
Well, because she doesn't act like she doesn't have a place to sleep this book.
Oh, no, because her and Shane ended up sleeping on the couch that night, remember?
Yeah, but what about the other nights?
But then the next day, they do, fixing the house up, getting it all nice and neat. And she gets a new mattress because she mentions later than her new mattress, when she goes to bed, she's bouncing on a new mattress. So
I missed that. Okay.
Yeah, so we don't go with her to the shop, which I'm fine. I'm fine. We don't go to the mattress store with Claire, but she does mention that they got her a new mattress that day.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, after the cops go, then we have Shane being like,
what happened, dude? I'm so sorry. And he's like, it's okay, bro. You're my bro. You're my bro. And
dramatic reunion.
Just wait until we get to the books where he's like, this one's on you, Mikey. And he starts calling him Mikey all the time. Every time he's just like, I need you to back me up, or you're our Mr. Strong superhero dude. It's always either bro or Mikey.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in this book that are they are things.
Honestly, whenever they decide to have their romance time, they are stoned surfers.
Yeah, you're like, where's the weed, guys? Who hit it?
And you're in Texas, okay? You've never seen, you're in the middle of the desert in Texas. You've never seen the ocean, okay? Can we stop talking like it? But yes, I do understand. I do know that some of Texas bordered, but they're in the middle of the fucking desert. Okay, it's fine. My analogy works. But what actually? Oh, Claire is like, I'm going to school, and they're like, no, you're not freaking going to school. She's like, no, I'm going to school. So then she goes to school.
Claire's fatal character flaw is that she's always like, but I have to go to school, and they're like, Claire, the world is ending.
The world is ending.
But she's like, but calculus, where they talk about linear inequalities.
I think this is like the 4th time that we've said the same thing at the same time this stream. We're back in sync. It's the delirium. I love it.
Honestly, like, this time slot is just, it's nostalgic. It's great. I feel like we're a little bit more entertaining like this, and I stand. I like it.
Yeah. Also the morning of, I don't know when they had time. Maybe Shane and Eve went and got her a new mattress while she was at school.
Yeah, maybe.
But Joe and Trav, Detective Hess, and what's the other cop's name? There's Joe Hess and Trav something.
Detective. I don't remember the other one's name.
Oh God, Joe Hess is like the main one. He's our main detective friend. Joe Hess Morganville. My typing skills leave a lot to be desired. Okay. Okay. Travis Lowe. Lowe.
Okay, yeah, Detective Hess and Detective Lowe.
Yes. They rock up and while Claire's out, I think this might even happen the next day. While Claire is at school, she sees a guy. She's like, he looks kind of familiar, but kind of not. I don't know. And then then it's the next morning. Her and Shane have quite a few make-out times during, because they're starting. I don't think they're like Facebook official yet, but they're like a thing.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure they're Facebook official by the end of this book, though, because, she almost dies to try and save him from a freaking cage. So, they rock up at the house and they're like, Eve, we have to talk to you. And they're like, okay. So then she goes and they're like, what's going on? And she's like, it's my brother. And her brother Jason is now out of jail. Backstory on Eve's brother Jason. So he's younger than Eve by a couple years. When Eve left home because she didn't want to be Brandon's little bite toy, Brandon decided to play with Jason instead. And Jason went all psychopath, and we also get some of their backstory before, like in the anthology.
Mm-hmm.
We get to hang out, and Eve gets kicked out of home and stuff, and we get to see a little bit of their relationship before the series. It's so sad. It's so depressing.
I know.
It's interesting to read though, but a girl went missing, and then and Eve had. I don't know if she actually went missing for an extended period. I think Eve saw her with Jason, and then she rocked up a few hours later, all stabbed. And she wouldn't testify; she was too scared to. But Eve testified that they were together when she got stabbed, and Jason went to jail.
Yeah.
And now another girl's gone missing in town.
Yeah.
So Lo and Hess are like, we're driving you girls to school because Eve has a job at the campus coffee shop. So they're being cute, driving the girls to school. Claire goes to class again, and then it's her break, and she goes there. There's a jock being a jock, or a frat boy being a frat boy, rather.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, look, I spilt my drink, gothic chick. Clean it up. So then she cleans it up, and then she gives him a new one, and then he crushes the cup in his hand and it spills everywhere again. And he's like, what? And then she's like, okay, and turned to make the next order. And he's like, where's my coffee? So then she makes him another one.
Mm-hmm.
And then he takes one sip and he's like, that was gross, and fucked off. And he's just like behind his back, but all smiles, to his face because it's her job. And then Claire's sitting down having her drink and doing a study. And why are we both blurry?
I don't know.
I'm back.
I'm
there
blurred.
we go.
We're good. Yeah.
And this guy comes up, looks kind of nerdy, and he's like, hey, how you going? I'm good. How are you? Good. Sorry about those guys before. Oh, that's okay. You seem really nice. What's your name? I'm Claire. What's your name? I'm Ian. I'm a member of the EEK fraternity, because it sounds so creepy. So, eek. We're having the Dead Girls Dance this weekend. Would you like to attend and come and see me there? And Claire's like, okay. And then she's like, crap, did I just agree to a date? And
yeah,
that's that setup. Okay. Because we needed the setup for Claire to go to the Dead Girls Dance.
Well, also what's kind of interesting about this scene, because her and Shane aren't technically dating.
A thing.
Yeah, but and it doesn't make her look like a piece of shit because Claire is awkward done well. Because she's not always awkward, and a lot of times, especially with like adults, she's really good at it, which is something that smart only children are typically good with because you aren't as used to having to interact with people your age, but your parents take you places. And like, I know that I was like this for a while.
Well,
that I was much better at talking to adults.
Yeah, and also when you're talking to adults, like there's none of that. Is he flirting with me? Is he not flirting with me? Is this a date? Like,
or if there is, that's bad.
Yeah, but generally, if an adult is like, let's spend time together at some point in the near future, it's usually for a reason, and like you're not sitting, like, you know what you're going there for. Whereas and then if a friend asks you to hang out, you're like, okay, we're going to hang out. But if it's a guy you've just met and you're not sure if he's being flirty or not, and then you kind of end up stumbling, yeah, sure, maybe I'll go. And then she's left in there going, did I just agree to a date? He wouldn't even like me, but did I just flirt with a guy that's not the guy that I've been doing stuff with, and I don't know what's happening.
Right.
And there's none of that confusion when you're talking to someone 20 years your senior.
Right. And so what happens is he's being nice to her, and Claire's like, oh, that's fun. And then he's like, so you want to go to a thing with me? And she's like, oh shit.
Yeah.
She's like, oh no. And
as soon as he walked away, she's like, I think like exact quote was, did I just agree to a date? I think I just agreed to a date with a guy.
Yeah.
Who's not
Shane. Yeah.
And she's like, oh fuck.
Yeah.
So like reading or listening to the conversation, you can see how she ends up saying yes without realizing what she's doing. But like also it's one of those things where she, like in her mind, she was just like, okay, well, I just won't go to the party, and that's done. Problem solved. And then it's the end of the school day. Hassan Lowe come and pick the girls up, and they're driving back to the glass house, and then another cop car yeets in front of him like, no! And then Gretchen and Hans. Now, tell me, who do you think Gretchen and Hans is supposed to be?
Oh.
Like that, other than their names and the accents that they're given, because there's also a hint to their accents. There's nothing else. So I'm just making a leap that they're inspired by
Hansel and Gretel. How old are they? So Claire is still 16, almost 17. God damn it.
She's 16 and a half. Okay.
Yeah, Shane and Eve are 18, and Michael is 19, I believe.
No, they're the other three are
all 18. Okay.
Yeah.
I know he turns 19 at some point.
Maybe last book he turned 19 because remember he said happy birthday to you, man, and drank his beer.
Yeah.
Or maybe,
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
But either way.
But Michael's the oldest. Eve's the youngest out of the older three.
Yeah.
And Shane's in the middle. I do know that.
Yeah.
So. But and yes, we would like to also say the book constantly acknowledges and about that it's weird that a 16-and-a-half-year-old is living in a house with 3 18-year-olds, with one potentially being 19. Yes, it has been identified as problematic, but the circumstances has led to it, and it's fine, and everyone just grows to accept it. It's fine.
Right, because the circumstances make sense. Claire's not safe in the dorms. And because of her, especially now because of her deal with Emily, she can't leave Morganville.
Yeah. And it's also, like, Emily's also, I think by this point as well, dropped a couple of hints of, like, you four are kind of like a package deal with each other.
Yeah.
So you're kind of stuck.
Yeah.
So if the founder of Morganville is like, these four are living together, like, that's kind of all there is to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, multiple people are like, I'm a bit too young to, and she's like, I don't care. Okay, there's circumstances. I have permission from him, myself. Okay, I have permission, but from myself to live here, and it's fine.
Right. And within the story, it makes sense. And also,
and she's in college.
And also, all the characters, like Eve, Michael, and Shane, are like Claire is 16, and they don't forget that.
Shane, especially, poor boy, can't forget that. Every time he starts to forget, he's like, crap, no, 16, not legal.
Yeah.
Poor guy.
So,
does Texas have Romeo and Juliet laws, though?
I don't know.
I feel like Texas probably would.
I'm not sure I'll look it up.
Because, like, he's not that much older than her. He's like
the age of consent is 17 in Texas.
Yeah.
I don't know when.
Yeah, no, I know. I knew that the age, like, that's the whole plot point with Claire and Shane's sex life in this book.
Texas Penal Code, the law states that anyone between the ages of 14 and 17 can legally give consent with someone within 3 years of their age, so long as the other party is at least.
So Shane and Claire could have been banging this whole time, and it would have been legal. So that's the frustrating thing with their thing. But Shane's been a good boy. He's holding out to that birthday bang. You know, he's been a good boy. And they don't even get the birthday bang, which sucks. We'll get to that when we get to that book.
So it's a thing. I remember. But where did we leave off?
Oh yeah, so Hansel and Gretel rock up.
Yeah.
And they're like, you need to come with us. And like, I'm not even trying to do the accent. And this is the accent that it's written that they have. So the narrator didn't take liberties here. She did her best.
Yeah.
They're like, you need to come with us. And then it's like a Germany accent. So, you know. They go and they rock up and found this square, and like the two detectives, like the human, like they're saying, good girls, like this is a bad situation. And they're like, what's going on? And they're like, we know the same as you know, okay? We were taking you home. They stopped us. We're coming here. So then they go in.
Why are Lo and Hess just hanging around?
To protect Eve from Jason.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, so until they know whether or not Jason's the one that took the missing girl and stuff like that. Because he got out of jail, and the next day a girl's gone missing, and it's like and he ain't happy with Sissy Dearest.
Yeah.
And they're doing it on their own time. They're not doing it on time. But yeah, so they go to Founders Square, which is like Vamp Central in Morganville, and they will go into the room, and Oliver's because Claire earlier that day, I guess, or maybe the day before, she bumps into Frank, and she's like, "Just leave Shane alone." And he's like, "I can't." Oh, at the house, he breaks into the house while the detectives are there.
Yeah.
And it's that morning, and she's like, "Just leave Shane alone." And he's like, "What makes you think I'm going to do that?" She's like, "Look, these are your 3 options, right? 1, you can take me, and everyone's going to be after you. 2, you can keep going, leave me, but keep trying to get Shane to come with you, and I'll just tell everyone what your plans are, and everyone's going to be after you.
Yeah.
Or 3, you can promise to leave Shane the hell alone, and this will be our little secret."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, okay." And she's like, "And look, if you really want to kill a vamp, go kill Brandon. He's a creep." Okay, like I think they're just being mostly facetious, but also she just found out about what Brandon had done to Eve and then Jason.
Yeah.
When they were younger, so she was kind of pissed at Brandon as well. And she's like, "He's a creep." So yeah, now back to where we're at. They walk in. Oliver's there, Emily's there, Richard's there, the mayor's there, and they're like, "Ta-da!" And it's Brandon with a stake in his chest, and he's dead.
Yep.
And they're looking at the wounds, and they're like, "He was tortured for a bit before because like some of these, because he's being mutilated and stuff, and some of them have started to heal. So like he was tortured for an extended period, like a few hours at least."
Mm-hmm.
They're like, "This ain't good." And Emily's like, "By the way, we know who broke into your house. We know who called this and that." Ta-da! And then they lift a curtain, and there's Shane and one of the biker guys all tied up and stuff. And they're like, "No, Shane!" And they're like, "Nope, he's going into a cage and he shall burn. He was with Brandon's body when he was found. He killed him. This is the way the system works." And ultimately what's going to happen is Shane's going to be in a cage for 2 days, and then on the second day at dawn, he will be burnt alive in the cage.
Yeah.
And Emily's like, "I told you not to make a fuss. I have a dead vampire now. Now we have fuss.
Yeah.
I revoked my protection from Shane." So Oliver's like, "Excellent." Because Brandon was one of Oliver's vampires.
Yeah.
So the girls go home. Michael's there, and he's like, "What happened? Where's Shane?" And they're like, "Oh God, Michael doesn't know." So then they have to tell Michael. Michael's like, "No." And Eve is like trying to go all Buffy and like go vampire slaying and break Shane out. And Michael locks her in her bedroom. And he's like, "Now, Claire, you're sane. You need to go talk to Emily, because Emily, for some reason, you two have started to have a bit of a thing.
Yeah.
I can't go anywhere. I'm stuck in the house. Also, can you ask her if she can come visit me sometime?"
Yeah.
Claire's like, "Why?" Like, "None of your fucking business, but I can't go to her."
Right. So she goes, and she's going to the historical society.
Oh, this was the day
Yeah.
before still. Sorry. Yeah, I forgot about this bit.
What was the thing you wanted to mention from last time?
What thing? Oh, no, we talked about like the Oliver Cromwell stuff.
Oh,
like
okay,
historical references. Yeah.
Okay.
That was the historical references.
So yeah, so she goes and she's like looking for this thing, and
she sees an alley.
She sees an alley, and she's like, "Ooh, an alley." 'Cause she's looking at like I assume fucking MapQuest. And she's like, "It's supposed to be like right here. This is weird." And then so she's walking towards the alley, and then we learn her name is Catherine. But
Grandma,
this was weird. It's weird to me that she's just like, "This person is Grandma." I'm like, you can't just call not your grandma that you just met.
Literally, for the rest of the series, she's Grandma Day. Like, honestly, I forgot she had a name.
Yeah, so she's Grandma.
Like, because I don't know if you know this as well. Like, depending on what book you read as well. Like, do you remember? Like, Hannah Moses is a character later in the series. Grandma Day is her like great aunt or something, but then later on she ends up being her grandmother as well. But initially she's her, and everyone in the family, like all of the nieces, nephews, cousins of those extended families, everyone just calls her grandma.
Yeah.
It's a thing.
So she's like, hey,
she's
no
like
go
this
down
150. She's like this 150-year-old in the shade, looking broad.
Yeah. And so she's like, hey, don't go down that fucking alley. And Claire's like, but why? And she's like, because bad thing. Yeah.
Trapdoor spider, Claire. Trapdoor spider.
And then Katie, something?
Lisa
comes out and is like, Grandma, what are you doing? And then Claire's like, oh, she wasn't bothering me. And then Grandma's like, I told her not to go down the alley. And she's like, and Lisa's like, that's an old wives' tale. And she's like, nah, it ain't, bitch. And so then Claire's like, okay, I haven't tinkled in a while. Can I use your bathroom? And Lisa's like, no, but fine. So Claire's
and Grandma's like, would you like some lemonade? And Lisa's like, she's not staying, Grandma. Like Lisa's just like, can you fuck off and leave us alone?
Yeah. And Grandma's like, well, we haven't asked her if she would like to stay, so we don't know that. And Lisa's like,
she's like,
no.
I haven't had anyone who wants to listen to my stories in quite a while, Lisa. Okay, you don't like my stories. She might like my stories. Okay.
Yeah.
This is Grandma. Okay.
So Claire attempts to go to the bathroom, but finds herself teleported into
Emily's office.
Yeah. And Emily's like, oh, hi. And
how
she's
you
like,
going?
And she's like, we're not in the house. And she's like, nope, we've teleported. And she's like, how? That's impossible. And Emily goes, you believe in vampires, but like magical teleportation's too much. Okay. All right, bitch. And Claire's like, okay. And so we find out that Grandma's house is a glass house, basically.
Yeah, it's a founder house.
And it's the one that Emily uses more often right now.
Yeah.
To do things. So there's like a portal to Emily near the bathroom.
Yeah, you open the bathroom door and you walk through into the bathroom, but you're in Emily's office, and then you walk out and you're in the bathroom.
Yeah.
So it's a thing, okay? Like, and we learn more about the portal system later. It's fine. It's fine, okay? But in this book, it's just like, wow, we teleported.
But note that there is a portal system. And so Claire's like, Shane, and Emily's like, no, motherfucker, no. And she's like, but Shane and you, and she's like, I promise to protect you guys so long as you're not making a fuss. You're making a fuss, and absolutely the fuck not. And then she's like,
oh,
and then Emily's like,
I just want to pause for a second, because that conversation happens the second time she goes there.
Oh.
Yeah, the first one is just like, oh, I was looking for the Historical Society. Oh, well, I am the Historical Society. And then the picture of the guy that was watching her that she thought looked familiar was Jason. And I can't remember if anything else important came of that one. That conversation.
We find out Jason supposedly murdered people.
He did stab a doodle.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was in jail.
So I think this one is where she's trying to find stuff out about Jason.
Yeah,
and she accidentally winds up with Emily.
Yeah, but then, and now we'll jump back to where we're up to, which is, she's like, I gotta go talk to Emily because Michael's like, I'm the only hope. So then, she goes to Grandma Day's house. Joe, I think, I don't know, one of the detectives takes her.
Yeah.
I can't remember which one. They drive her to Grandma Day's house, and she's knocking on the door middle of the night, like it's like 10 p.m. or something, and she's like, knock, knock, knock. Lisa's in bed. She comes downstairs, pissed as hell. And she's like, what? And she's like, I need to use the bathroom. And she's like, are you freaking kidding me? And she's like, just please. She's like, please, I need to use your bathroom. And she's like, you fucking weirdo. Fine.
Yeah.
So then, and then she goes into the bathroom. She's back in Emily's office, and she's like, Shane.
Yeah, she's like, Shane. And Emily's like, motherfucker. So that conversation happens. And then Claire's like,
Emily.
Oh, yeah. And then Emily is like, sorry.
Emily also goes, Because Claire's like, you can tell if he's lying. I know you can. You've got your vampire woo-woo. And Emily's like, I know he didn't kill him. But at this point, I just don't care. If Shane didn't make a phone call, his dad wouldn't come to town, Brandon would be alive. Yeah, and like, I'm playing chess. Okay, you're playing checkers. I'm playing 4D chess. Okay, yeah. You don't understand the politics of Morgan Mill, Claire. So, and then she's like, "Is there anything else you want to tell me?"
Claire? And Claire's like, "No. Oh crap. Michael wants to see you. What should I tell him?" And Emily goes, "Tell him the truth, that you didn't care enough about him to deliver his message." And it's like, oofistan.
Yes, Emily is a vampire. Also, it's, yeah. Oh, God, I'm sounding so nitpicky by pointing out her actual name. It's not Emily, it's Emily.
Yeah.
But close enough. They sound the same when you're talking.
Yeah.
But yeah, she is the queen vampire, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
But then Claire goes out to the car, and Grandma's there, and she's like, "You go out." I'll just spell it. That's how it's spelled, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And she goes out to the car, and it's empty.
Yep.
And she was like, ugh. And then she's like, I can't remember if it's Lo or Hess, whoever it is. She's like, I can hear him. So she gets out of the car and starts going towards the noise. And then she's like, can I hear him? And then she realizes she's like 2/3 of the way down the alley.
Yeah.
And she's like, ugh.
And I think Emily.
Well, then she starts to get all trancy again. She's like, if I just get to the other end of the alley, I'll be safe. Right. So she starts to keep walking down the alley, and then she just sees Claire, and she looks up, and Emily's at the second story window, and she's like, I wouldn't do that if I were you. I would turn around and go back to the car.
Yeah, she's like, Claire,
go.
The fuck around. And so she does. And then
she can feel something. Like, I don't know if he's actually chasing her or not.
It's fucking creepy,
sending out vibes. But she's getting vibes like she's being chased by something, and then she jumps in the car and she can see a shadow with glowing eyes.
Yeah.
She's like a trapdoor spider. And
no, it's fucking creepy. Like, unless you are like, ooh, it's Mern, like reading it, you're like, oh my god, Mernon, oh my god, I'm so excited. But reading it like as it is written, as Scribe would say, it's fucking creepy. Like, if you don't know what's gonna happen. Or who
honestly, even knowing it's Mernon, I think knowing it's Mernon, aside from the like, oh, it's Mernon, it kind of makes it a bit more creepy.
Yeah, that's true. But Mernon is one of the best parts of this series.
Oh, honestly, I can't wait till next book.
I know.
Wait.
I really
one of my favorite parts about Mernon is even after everyone gets cured, he's still batshit crazy, and I love it.
I didn't know everybody got cured.
Yeah, most of the series is not a disease.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, we only get a few books of that storyline. Other problems come up.
Yeah. So anyway, now she has a fuck no from Emily. So then it's time to go visit Oliver. Oh, also at one point you saw Frank talking to Oliver. Yeah. Important to note for later. Yeah. So then she goes to see Oliver, and she's like, Oliver, please free Shane. And he's like, only if you swear yourself to me. And she's like, what? Tell me more. And he's like, you will be literally my cattle. Yeah, he's like, you're going to be chattel, bitch. And then Hest is like, no. We're leaving. Like, his hand. Shame on you, Oliver. Yeah, he's like, his hand, Claire's mouth. He's like, absolutely the fuck not. And he drags her out of there, and he's like, no matter what the fuck happens, you do not ever take that deal, Claire. Yeah, he was like, absolutely. He's like, you will live a very long time, and you will live to fucking regret it. And she's like, well, but I was thinking. He's like, no.
Yeah, and she's like, but I have to protect Shane. And he's like, Shane's dead.
And she's like,
Nicole's like, "Wait,
ow.
what?
And he's like, look,
We
no.
can't stop trying to save him. You're only going to end up a slave or dead yourself, okay? I get it, but no.
Yeah. He's like,
So then
absolutely
she goes
not.
home.
Yeah, she
so
goes
then
home.
she goes home. She's like, Michael, I told Emily a message. Like, also, I don't think Michael would be like actually knowing what he wants from Emily. Like, I think he would have been pissed, but also he would have understood if she'd forgotten to be like, hey, by the way, Michael wants to have a titty chat.
Yeah.
Because, you know, her boyfriend, her unofficial boyfriend, is locked in a cage, and it's his best friend, and like it's an upsetting time, okay?
Yeah.
But then she's like, where's Eve? And he's like, well, I had a chitty chat with Eve, and I persuaded her that it was not wise to go vampire hunting tonight. And she's like, did you do vampire mind tricks on her? Because like the reason why Michael did was because he got half turned and then died.
So so I didn't know that he could do that, but apparently he can do that.
Well, there was nothing to really establish at last book, and then there's no reason to establish it again past this point. So
Yes, the way it gets established is they use it once and never use it again.
Well, he doesn't have an opportunity to use it ever again.
True.
In her, like, in Rachel Kane's defense.
Yeah, there is no opportunity. So he's like, yeah. I talked to her, and she's like, Eve is gonna be pissed.
And he's like, I don't care, as long as she's alive. She can be pissed at me only if she's breathing. And if
it's the classic Damon thing. I don't care if she's mad at me as long as she's alive.
Yeah,
it's one of those.
And so then they go to sleep. Well, Claire goes to sleep, I guess. And then she wakes up and she's like, oh yeah, she wakes up, it's daylight. She's like, okay, Michael's ghosty now. And she's like, I should go let Eve out of her room because Eve's still locked in her room. And she's like, yeah, coffee first. Eve is going to be pissed enough. We need to get her coffee. So she goes and makes Eve coffee. Brings it back up. Eve comes out and she's like, grr. And then Eve starts yelling at the air because, you know, Michael's a ghost. She's like, how dare you do that to me? If you ever do that to me again, rah, rah, rah. Do you understand? 1 for yes and 2 for no. And so I guess, I don't know if he jumps into her or just like waves his hand through her head. But he's like, yeah, no, I won't do that again, I promise. And then she's like, you got a lot of making it up to do. And then she kind of gets an orgasm face. Like, was he diddling her?
I don't know. I was like, that's weird. And I'm going to pretend like it didn't happen.
Like, I don't know if he was like, I don't know, like, maybe he was like just like ghost stroking her neck or her face. Like, I'm hoping that's all it was. But then when Claire was like, what did he do? And she was like, none of your business. So it makes it sound like he was doing some ghost diddling.
Yeah, like he was like, it's okay, I'll bang you until you're okay with me again. That's what it did. That's what it like.
Did he give her a rub or something? Like,
you know what? We're gonna ignore it. That's what we're gonna do.
You know what we need? We need Addie to tweet Rachel Kane.
Because Addie always gets answered. Like, hey, in the Dead Girls Dance that you haven't thought about in like 500 years. When Michael gets diddle Eve in ghost form. So anyway, so that happens. And then I think Claire goes to school again. How does she get kidnapped?
No.
Oh,
no, her and Eve are going to go do chitty chats to people.
Yeah. And so then they get run down by Monica.
Yep. Because it's not a Morganville book without Monica doing a kidnap, apparently. So at least so far. 2 out of 2, Monica's kidnapped Claire.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so like Claire kind of gets like half knocked out or something, and then she comes to her and she's like, where's Eve? And Gina's like, okay, so at the moment I've remembered now. At the moment, Jennifer is the one that is kind of like the reluctant, but also like kind of enjoys, but is more reluctant to get too psycho. Whereas Gina ends up being the one that ends up being a bit too crazy that she even freaks Monica out sometimes.
Right.
But then at some point, Rachel forgets and switches the two for a book or two, and then she switches them back.
Yeah.
So Gina's the psycho one.
For now.
Yeah, so Gina's like, it was just a little cut, she'll be fine.
Because they didn't really want Eve. They were after Claire.
Yeah.
And then
as they're... Claire's like, why'd you kidnap me, yo? And she's like, oh, because Daddy asked me to pass a message on to you. And Claire's like, so you had to kidnap me and cut my best friend? She's like, well, obviously.
Well, it's part of obvious. Don't worry about it. They're like, you haven't kidnapped this book, okay?
Yeah, but ultimately it's like, hey, Claire, go find Frank and tell him if he turns himself in, they'll let Shane go.
And so then,
Frank
is like, hey, I'm here, guns blazing, and he grabs Claire, he grabs Monica. Oh, well, no, you know what? He kicks the two out.
He kicks Jamie and Jennifer out. Yep.
Yeah. And then
they go for a drive.
And then they go for a drive. And so then they wind up in the tunnel. There's a tunnel system in Morganville. They wind up in the tunnel system, and Claire's like, what you do with me? And he's like, don't worry about it. And so then they stop in the tunnels, and he's like, all right, we're under the thing. We're under City Hall. And so they both cut off Monica's bracelet, and they're like, here's this. Keep in mind, there's no more bracelets to bolt cut off. So we're going to bolt cut her and go tell the mayor that I have his daughter. And if I don't get my son back, I will torture her and kill her. And Claire's like,
And then he's like, by the way, I have a blowtorch.
He's like, because
effectively, like, if my son burns, she's gonna burn, because that's two out of 2 kids burnt alive. Okay, and I'm an alcoholic, crazy psychopath.
Yeah. So Claire has to climb up the thing. That's her climbing. So she gets up and she's like, oh shit, it is City Hall. That's fucking wild. And then she goes in and she's like, I need to talk to the mayor. And then they're like, here's the brother of Monica. And she's like, okay, but I need to talk to the mayor. And he's like, what have you done? You know, like blah 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 blah. Yeah. And she's like, okay, here's the thing.
How did you signal Frank? And Claire's like, Richard, your sister's a psycho.
Yeah, and he's like, I know she is, but also, and she's like, Frank kidnapped us. Okay, I got double kidnapped. And then he's like, nah. And then the mayor comes
Richard's
in.
not too likable yet. Richard becomes more likable as the series goes on.
But the mayor comes in and he's like, Richard, sweetie. And so then he's also like, get these 2 other officers out here, necessary personnel only. And he's like, if you really needed backup to deal with her, then like you're a pussy, he says to his son.
Yes.
And
Father of the year right there.
Yeah. So then the other officers eat, and they're like, okay, time for you to start talking. And they kind of don't believe her, but then she's like, bracelet and whatever. And they're like, all right, fine.
And so May's like, I'll do what I can. But if my daughter dies, you're gonna fucking regret my daughter dying, just so you know. And Claire's like, I don't want him tortured. I don't want my boyfriend killed. Okay, like I don't want. Like ultimately, I want the same outcome as you.
So now we're on a mission to re-kidnap Monica.
Yes.
So
then they go back to the house and they're like, we need to find Sam. Like, why do they need to find? Oh, because also Claire meets Sam earlier in the book as well, and he's like, hey, and she's like, hi, you're a vamp, and he's like, I know, but I'm little, and none of them trust me, and half the humans don't trust me, but Eve was always nice to me, so I got her a necklace. And Claire's like, you can give it to it yourself. Bye.
Yeah, Claire's like, no.
Yeah, but then I can't remember why they need Sam specifically. I guess like to get help to do one of the
I think
tasks.
they wanted Sam specifically so because they knew Sam would help, and he's a vampy vamp, so strong enough to help. So
yeah, and then this is where we find out because Michael's like, because he's like, oh yeah, Sam's lovely, and Michael's like, you've been talking to Sam, and she's like, yeah, I've been talking to Sam. He's cool, and Claire's like, you know Sam? He's like, well, yeah, he's my grandfather. And they're like, and Claire's like, wait, what?
And it's like, mic drop.
And Michael's just like, look, it's a thing. Okay, it happened. And then automatically for the rest of the series, Sam is literally Michael with red hair. They look identical, except for the fact that he has like, it varies between like red, like not red, but like almost ginger to just a pale strawberry blonde. So depending on the book and the scene, depends on his hair color.
Yeah. So now we have to find Sam, and Michael's like, well, you're not going back to common grounds. And she's like, all right. So she calls the place and she's like, hi, is Sam there? And they're like, he's at the dead girls dance. And they're like, oh, all right, thanks, bye. And then she's like, technology, I don't have to go put myself in danger. And now Eve and I are going to go put ourselves in danger. And
Michael's like, I don't like this. And they're like, well, and Eve this is a running theme with Eve. When Eve's on a mission, she can get kind of mean to anyone who does anything to even slightly annoy her.
Yeah.
When she's on mission. And she looks at Michael and she's like, well, you're useless to us, so fuck off. Us girls have shit to do. And Michael's just
which is rude. True, but rude.
And Michael's just like, wow. Because also this whole time, so like you can just tell Michael is miserable that he can't do anything except sit at home and hope that Shane comes home.
Yeah. So Michael's like, oh, and so then they have to dress Claire up in goth getup.
Yeah. Eve doesn't really have to change.
Which is funny. It's actually kind of cute. Because Claire's like, oh my god. And then also, this is so true if you're not used to wearing makeup.
Especially rice paper foundation.
Oh my god, I know.
Oh, rice foundation. Whatever it is. Goth
she's
foundation.
Like,
we'll just say that.
She's like, my face itches. And there's a lot of parts where Claire like wants to, like touch her face, or she's like, but she can't because she's like,
But it's also like you're at a zombie dance, so like your makeup can get a bit smeared, Claire. It's fine.
Yeah. So they go, and then at the door. Yeah, and then at the door, they're like, the fucking bite. Like, do you have a fucking ticket? And she's like,
Ian Jameson invited me.
Yeah, she's like, Ian invited me, and they're like, oh, okay, because they look at like a guest list or whatever, and they're like, come on in. And then Claire's like, I ain't finding Ian. So
they're looking for Sam.
So they're looking for Sam. And then Ian does find her, and he's like, hey, what's up? And then Eve's like, I'm going to go look for Sam. And Claire's like, did you leave me? Which Eve shouldn't have left her.
No.
Because...
Right, there's different types of makeup. Yes, there are different... keep telling the story. I'm going to find the thing, okay?
Okay. So it's hot in there because there's a lot of people, and he's like, oh, you want something to drink? And she's like, not alcoholic. And he's like, we have water and water. And she's like, okay. So I've totally forgot about this, but the second he came back with an already opened water bottle, I was like, this bitch getting roofied. Never, okay. Life advice from Book Club with Bae. If you are at a party with people you don't know, 1, do not leave your drink alone.
Unattended.
Or if you have to go to the bathroom and you really don't trust the situation and it's really fucking crowded, throw the drink away, get a new one. Also, if somebody brings you a bottle of water that is already open, you're getting roofied, don't drink it. Demand a sealed bottle of water. Okay? Don't don't get roofied. I mean, look, not that it's your fault if it happens, but don't get just not to get roofied tips from Book Club with Bay. And also this goes for everybody. Because anybody can get roofied and it's not fun. Not that I would know, but still. I've heard it's fun.
I will say a lot of the foundation I'm finding now, like obviously because these books were written so long ago, it's improved. Okay. But like back in the day, it was almost more like face paint than it was foundation. Almost.
Yeah.
I mean, it was still foundation, but it like because it's so pale and everything as well, like generally the paler the foundation, it tends to be a little bit thicker. Same with tattooing. The lighter the color, the thicker the ink, because it needs to cancel out the existing color.
Yeah.
And yeah, but I found a picture that kind of tells the point well enough, I think. So let me just. There we go. Like, let me see if I can make it bigger. Probably not. No, that made it smaller. Open image, new tab. There we go. So like, you're gonna zoom. Oh, that's rude. It doesn't even come up. I just have like I've got a beach ball happening, but it's still coming up as a cursor. So like, you can kind of tell here that there's, or even up here, that there is probably a good millimeter worth of crap on her face. Whereas normal foundation, if it is not at the same level as your face, you've put too much on. Whereas this stuff you have to cake it on. And yeah, it's thick, it's not breathable, it's not a fun time.
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not fun. So he's roofied her and she's like, I need Sam, and he's like, okay, let's go find Sam. And then she's like starting to feel
she's actively roofied, but she's not actively roofied yet.
Right. But she's starting to feel the effects of it. So she's sweating. She doesn't feel very good. And she's like, it must be like really fucking hot in here. And Ian's like, do you need more water? Because she drank all the water.
Yeah.
And Ian's like, do you need more water? And she's like, yeah, I do. And this time he gives her a sealed bottle of water.
Yeah. And at this point as well, like, it's not unreasonable for her to be this hot and sweaty because it's a freaking house party in the middle of Texas.
Yeah.
With a shit ton of people. Like, there's no pandemic happening. There is no social distancing. Like, there's people fucking on the kitchen floor. Like, you can't take a step without bumping into 5 people. So it's normal to be sweaty as well. And like, so it's not sus aside from the fact that he gave her an unsealed bottle at this point.
Yeah. So they're getting her upstairs and she's like, oh, is that where Sam is? And they're like, yeah. And then she like, ugh. And they're like, cool, come into this room.
They're like, well, that was fast.
And they're like,
and asshole,
like 5 guys in there.
Yeah, asshole guy from the coffee bar the other day and stuff. They're all in there, and they're like, excellent. Did she drink the whole bottle? Yes, she did. And Claire's like, oh, you drugged me.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we did. And then she's like, no, why? And they're like, because Monica asked us to. So yeah, Monica set up the 16-year-old to get gang raped.
Yeah. So I think Eve's the one who's like, by the way, she's 16, motherfuckers, but that happens in a minute. So
yeah,
Claire's
but
like,
Monica knows she's 16.
Yeah. So Claire, the trooper, is doing her fucking damnedest to stay awake.
Yeah, she picks up a baseball bat and I think it's a baseball bat.
It's a baseball bat.
Yeah. And then like she's just resting it against a leg and like pretending to pass out until one of them comes up. Oh wait, no, she hits one first.
Yeah.
he hits Ian first, like, I don't know if she breaks his nose, but it's bleeding. He uses a dirty sock to soak up the blood, and then she pretends to like be passing out against the wall with the baseball bat, like just resting against the leg. And I think Ian again comes up to grab her, and she whacks the bat up and hits accurately.
Yep.
And
I mean, and that said, like, she kind of gets to her feet, but her body is not working with her.
And so
then,
the rest of the guys are just like, we'll just hang back until like you're legit passed out.
Yeah.
And then
I think it's like a knock at the door. I don't know.
Yeah, there's a knock at the door, and she's like, Eve, and they're like, it's probably just someone looking for a room. It wasn't someone looking for a room. And then Sam busts in.
And Sam's
he's like, because also they're like, we don't care about the town's rules, whatever freaking rules they are. We're not even from here. Like Monica said, that was the way to get around Emily's rules. Whoever the fuck that bitch is. And then door busts open, and Sam's like, what did you say about Emily? And I'm like, Sam, I don't think that insulting Emily right now is the issue.
It's not. So, but yeah, he busts in and he's like, hey guys. And they're like, ah, shit. And he's like, what's up? And
they're like, we're kind of busy. Yeah. And he's like, no, don't be saying mean stuff about my boo-boo. I'm like, well, fuck you and fuck Emily. Run at us. And he's like, I'd rather not. And then he picks up the freaking blood dirty sock. Look, this bit's gross. He squeezes the blood out onto his hand. I'm just picturing all this sweat in there too, because it was out of the laundry basket.
Yeah. And
then he just licks the blood off of his hand, and the rest is just like, and Claire's like, that is disgusting.
Yeah.
And he's just like, so are we feeling each other now? And then we hear screaming happening downstairs.
Yeah.
And probably one of my favorite parts of this book is just like Sam's just like, hey, Onek, everyone in the closet, if you touch him, I'm gonna finish what we started. And he's like, did you just call me by my blood type? He's like, yes, I did. Get in the closet.
Yeah.
So mass murder going on downstairs is enough to sober Claire up. For like, she's of sound mind at this point now. Turns out, I think what happened is
up though.
Oh yeah, because like after she gets home, she ends up passing out and stuff. But it sobers her up enough to stay coherent.
Yeah.
And I think what ends up happening is Frank and his boys come in and kill a bunch of vampy vamps, but they also accidentally kill a couple people too.
Right.
Because everyone's dressed in zombie / vamp makeup, so they made a couple of mistakes. But then Sam comes up and while they're in the closet, the boys are just like, look, Monica said she was good to go. It's just, she likes it a bit rough or something. And Eve's just like, she's 16, and they're like, ugh. And she's like, yeah. So like, that's rape, like of the statutory kind. And I'm like she said something about like that's worse. And I'm just like, look, the way it's phrased, just statutory rape is worse than drug gang rape, and I'm like, it's kind of not.
Well, obviously,
but the two together is worse than not together, because you're gang raping a minor. But they're both awful. Like, yeah,
but and the other thing is
but just the way it's phrased, it's just like
it's phrased very odd, because there are levels of statutory. There's no Romeo and Juliet laws, therefore it's statutory, which is like, and then there's like rape, which, and I don't know if this is the case, but is it the case that like you would get a rape charge on top of statutory if you were to gang rape a minor?
No, I think it's a specific because statutory rape is specifically just literally the only reason why it's rape is because they're under the age of consent.
Right.
So
which can sometimes be
they're both active. So they're both active, willing participants in a statutory rape thing.
Yeah.
At least at the time. Whereas actively raping, as opposed to, I can't even think of a better way to phrase it, but we'll just call it rape because, there's a clear connotation with that. Raping a minor is its own thing, which is considered worse than rape or statutory rape.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah. So I'm not convinced it would be
and then gang rape. Yeah, so statutory, there was no reason to bring statutory into it. It would have been just raping a minor, gang raping a minor.
Yeah, which not very cash money of you.
And I'm not gonna lie, gang raping a minor sounds a lot worse than statutory rape.
Yeah.
Because also depending on the state, depending on the state of where you live or country of where you live, an 18-year-old banging his 17-year-old girlfriend who's 18 in 3 days, that's statutory rape in some places.
Yeah, exactly.
So statutory rape is not always a reasonable crime, right. I guess. Because sometimes there's like a 3-week age difference between the two.
Yeah, exactly.
And again, which is why a lot of states have started to introduce Romeo and Juliet laws because, someone being 3 weeks older than their girlfriend and turning 18 and then banging in the 3 weeks before she turns 18. That's a bit silly.
There's a difference between that and like a 21-year-old doing
banging a 14-year-old.
Yeah, with like 14, 16, honestly, all the way up.
There's a big difference between the two. Yeah. But yeah, no, I if I had written this book, I would have said she's 16, you assholes. So that's even worse because you would have been gang raping a minor, not you would have been committing statutory rape.
So anyway.
Yeah. But yeah, so
Sam goes back to the house with them.
Sam does go back to the house with them. Claire's passed out. Eve, I think, passes out on the way as well because like they're all tired.
Yeah.
Claire wakes up. It's like 4 a.m. So they've got until dawn to save Shane because otherwise he's going to get burnt. Or they went until dawn to either save Shane, which is generally the plan is save Monica to get Shane type thing. Because at this point as well, I think we don't have confirmation yet that it's agreed that the swap is sufficient. So Claire wakes up, she's freaking out because she's lost like 5 or 6 hours of Shane saving time.
I mean, that said she was roofied, so
yeah. But also like Shane's life is on the line, so I kind of can't blame her for being like, what the fuck, I slept. She goes downstairs and go.
Yeah, well, because she goes down. Sorry, I think I was going to say what you were going to say. She goes downstairs. Michael's there, and he's like, "Oh, you're up," and she's like, "What the fuck, Michael?"
Yeah, and Emily is down there too.
Yeah,
and she's like, "Where the fuck's Sam?" And Sam's like, "Oh, I'm over here." And here even she's like, "I'm gonna have a shower. Wait for me. I'll be really quick, I promise." Because she was all still sweaty and gross and stuff. Sometimes before you go save someone's life, you have to have a shower.
Yeah.
So she comes back down, and no, she's not down yet. So Claire's like, "What's going on?" And Emily's like, "You sure you want to do this, Michael?" And he's like, "Look, I have no other choice. I need out of the house." And she's like, "It's not going to be easy." And she's like, I hope you understand. This is also putting me at risk. And he's like, "Look, please, I'm begging you." And she's like, "Okay." And Emily's like, "Sam, get Claire out." So Claire's like, "What the fuck's going on?" And then she hears vampire. Yes. And she's like, "Michael's going to be a vampire." "No, Michael, no." And he's like, "I have no choice, Claire." But like the dramatic, I have no choice, Claire. Like it's all like,
when really I've always read it as I have no choice, Claire. Like,
or like I have no choice. Like, you know,
yeah,
kind of like
he's like, I am half a vampire.
yeah, like, and there's so many things where Michael's just like, I don't know what to do, and it's like every time the boys get a little bit emotional. There we go. I can speak. I swear I learned how to talk. Yeah, they kind of like whisper yell.
Yeah.
Which I get as well, because also I kind of don't want Cynthia Holloway yelling in my ears. So I appreciate that she keeps the volume down.
Right.
But then Emily turns Michael into a vampy vamp. And at some point, Eve has come downstairs and they're like, what the fuck? And Michael's like on the floor, like all dead. And Emily's like, well, that was that then. And they're like, is he fine? They're like, oh no, he'll wake up in a minute. It's cool. And then Emily's like, Sam! And Sam's like, and then like the golden hair and the red head just go, and like they collide and they do a bit of a wrestling match. And then they're like, blood! And then so Michael has to go get blood because he's like, he's hungry. And Eve's like, well, my boyfriend's a vampire. And they're like, yeah, your boyfriend's a vampire. Oh, one thing we didn't talk about. Way earlier in the book, before all this shit started happening, like it's after like, Frank and that got kicked out, it's that night, I'm pretty sure. Eve and Michael are upstairs having a chitty chat, you know, like they thought Michael was dead and then he wasn't, and you know, like, and they've started to have kind of a thing, and like she's been wearing like sexy lingerie under her clothes for him and stuff like that. So you know, and then Shane and Claire are doing like a little flirt dance thing because like they've made out a few times, but that's really about the it at this point. Right. And so she's like, do you want to play video games? He's like, do you really want to be playing video games right now, Claire? And she's like, I don't know. And in her head, she's like, think of something sexy to say. And she's like, do you think they're doing it? And then she's like, yeah. And like, I just thought that was really cute. She's like so clueless. She's like, think of something sexy. Sex. Even Michael might be having sex. Hey, Shane, do you think they're having sex?
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm just like, oh, bless you, Claire.
I know.
But okay, we're back to now. So they take Michael for blood, I guess, and then like you know, Sam and Michael come back, and he's like, okay, so Sam's like, here's the plan. So the trade's been approved. If we get Monica back before Shane does it dead, then you can have Shane back. You know, it's a thing. They're like, excellent. They have a basic idea of where they might be because they worked out. So like Travis and Joe and Richard are all off doing a find. Yeah. And Michael goes too when they work out where they are. Michael's like, no, yeah. So, like all the boys go and the girls are like, fuck this noise. So then they follow because Sam can't go because only Michael's the only vamp allowed to be involved. So the girls follow. They end up finding it, and the building's on fire. And they're like, no. And so then they try and get in, and then the two detectives come out. Michael comes out, and they're like, oh fuck. And then the sun starts coming up, and we're like, we need to get Michael undercover, and like crap. So then they have to do a thing, and they throw Michael in the back of the police car. And then Richard drags Monica out, and they're like, excellent. So then they gun it to wherever they have to go, Founders Square, I guess. Yeah. And I think Monica, and the mayor's like, you're too late. Like he's hugging Monica, he's really excited. Monica's freaked the fuck out. And the mayor's just like, you're too late. And Claire's like, wait, what? And he's like, oh, Mom, don't be stupid. He's not dead. He got out. His dad came and rescued him. Yeah. And it's just like, can you have a little bit of, like, you were worried about Monica. Like, okay, yes, I get that, like, boyfriend dying, not as sad as child dying. Like, I get that. But, like, it's at least halfway there. It's at least halfway there. So like,
Yeah.
have a little bit of compassion, you dick. So then there's a big standoff at the hospital, like the old hospital that's due to be demolished this week. The explosives have already been placed, guys. Okay, just so you know, the explosives have already been placed. And on the way there, Claire's like, Oliver and Frank were in on it. Like Oliver wanted, because Brandon was a creep and he was causing all trouble, and it was more trouble than he was worth. I don't know why Oliver's trying to kill everyone. Because yeah, she made the accurate realization that yeah, it was all set up.
Yeah.
But then they get to the hospital. Oliver sees him go, like, because old vamps as well, they can chill out in the sun. It's not comfortable. Oliver's got like his white room hat on, leather coat, gloves, you know, minimizing the sun contact. He's not going to burst into flames and die. Whereas Michael would.
Yeah.
He drags Claire out of the car and he's like, Shane, I have your Claire. And ultimately he ends up like making Claire be like, swear yourself to me or I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah.
Unless Shane comes out. And then Shane manages, because like they can hear Shane and Frank punching on, so like because Shane's trying to get out and Frank's like, no. And then Shane comes out and grabs Claire, drags her into the hospital. They do a yeet. Everyone comes to running, like, you know, cops and vampires and vampire cops, like they're all running in. And he's like, we need to go. And then they go down a thing and they're down there and he's like, Dad, you should have left. And he's like, no, son, it's time. And someone's like, it's time. And they've like rigged the explosives to do a kaboom now. And Claire's like, hell no, because like, you know, it's not just vampires up there, it's like, you know, people. And so she yanks all the wires out and she's like, oh wow, that actually worked, yay.
Yeah.
And then Frank's like, how dare you. And Shane's like, how dare you. And then like Shane's like, yeah. And Frank's like, you're not my son. And he's like, I don't care, she's my girl. And then so like Frank yeets one way, Shane and Claire yeet the other way, and then they're running, and then Shane's like, we can do this or this or this or this, and Claire's like, or we can just do this. Hey cops, because like, you know, they've been running for a bit, cop cars coming, and Claire's like, it's time to spare Shane. Yeah, Frank apparently at some stage admitted to killing Brandon. Shane's off the hook, Claire's off the hook, they're all off the hook. I guess I think from this point on, yeah, Claire and Shane are a Facebook official, even Michael a Facebook official. Shane doesn't know yet that Michael's a vampy vamp though.
Done.
So then they go home. And on the drive home, because even Michael came to pick him up, Shane's just sitting there and Claire's like, oh God, he's putting it together. He's putting it together. And Shane's in his head, he's like, he's out of the house. How'd you get out of the house, Michael? And then like they're almost home. He's like, hey, Michael, how'd you get out of the house? And he's like, Shane. He's like, no, because the only thing that I'm thinking of that could have gotten you out of the house, I don't want to hear. So just tell me it's not that, please. And Michael's like, but I can't. And he's like, and now they're home. So then Shane storms out of the car. Michael goes up to grab him. Shane decks him, goes inside. How could you? All this crap. Argument. I think an argument happens. I don't know. I can't remember. Yeah. But like, you know, Shane storms off to his room. Even Michael is downstairs. Claire's like, oh, look, it's roses. And it's a letter from Emily being like, apparently the informal protection I offered you is not enough. So have a contract and a bracelet.
Yeah.
And Claire's like, and yeah, then Claire and Shane do some making out, and then Claire's like, okay, and then she signs the contract, and the book ends.
Yep.
And ultimately what she's signing, the contract she's signing is the same contract that Oliver wanted with her, and it's a very archaic, like, because the current one is just like, you know, I offer you protection, you donate blood to me at the blood bank, done. That's the current arrangement. Whereas it's like, I own you mind, body, and soul. You cannot breathe unless I tell you can breathe. You cannot bang unless I tell you can bang. You cannot breathe unless I tell you can breathe.
Right.
type thing. It's that kind of contract. And Claire signs it to protect everyone.
Yeah.
Without discussing with anyone first.
Yeah.
And then the book ends.
And then the book ends. And here we are. So that's that book. Tonight we are doing another book. We're doing book club. We're doing Bad Book Club with Addie.
Yes.
So tonight at 8. Yeah. I think we start at 8.
Yeah,
we're doing 9. 9. Okay, tonight at 9. Sorry.
9.
I apologize. So tonight at 9, we will be doing Till Death by Jennifer L. Armentrout, which I haven't started yet, but I've got time. So.
Yeah, did you read the Invisible Ink stuff?
No.
Good. Don't read that until after we get the whodunit. Until after you get there. Because I want to see if you work it out yourself. I don't want to be getting that in your head.
Okay, I'll pay attention then. Yeah, so that's what we're doing tonight.
You kind of don't have to pay attention to get it.
Okay. Yeah, so we're doing that tonight. So 2 book clubs in one day. Yeet. So, yeah, and then we'll do Midnight Alley at some point, and possibly then the Witcher books at some point as well.
Yeah.
So that's what's next, and yeah.
Yeah.
That's all I got.
That was book club.
That was book club. So we will see you guys tonight. I'm bad at